Welcome back to Always Learning. And what are we doing today? We're learning. And today we're learning how to make shutters to go up on the outside of your house. And typically what people do is they'll get a board, either a 1x6 or a 2x6. And that means it's 2x6 is it's 2 inches thick and it's 6 inches wide. And it's not actually bad. It's usually like 5.5. So they kind of cheat a little bit on that. So you always want to kind of measure everything if you've got a certain area you're trying to fill. But they'll run 3 boards across vertically, and then they'll come back with 2 boards, one board near about 1 foot from the top and one about 1 foot from the bottom as cleats across there to hold those 3 vertical boards in place. You can build them out of almost anything, but a lot of people are building them out of rough cedar. They look great. They don't really need any maintenance to them. You can stain them if you want, but they just look great as they naturally kind of fade from reddish cedar to kind of a gray. What we're doing and what I did last time was I took 2x6 pine and I just roughed it up, beat it up, make it look like it's been out in the elements, it's been around for 100 years, been abused, and then I'm going to prime it with a primer just to help secure it from the weather, and then I'm gonna paint it black, and then we're gonna hang them up in my daughter's house. All right, so the first step is actually to go get the boards, the lumber at Lowe's or Menards or Home Depot or whatever local lumber yard you go to. And then the next thing is just to cut them down into all the pieces. Like I said, we're gonna cut 3 of these 2x6s of the pine vertically across, and then they're about 16.5 inches. Is we're gonna have 3 cleats. 2 cleats, one going across the top about 1 foot down and one at the bottom, and that's it. And I'm going to actually do it with a miter chop saw today, but if you don't have one, don't let that stop you from doing it. They've been making shutters for 100 years, so if you want to go old school, you can do it by a hand saw, or you can actually also use a circular skill saw, and it'll cut it pretty quick. Keep in mind, for a shutter, you're only doing, each shutter only has 5 cuts. So it's not like a lot of them. I'm building 2 sets of shutters, so I'm gonna have 4 total shutters. That's 20 cuts. So with this, it just goes a little faster. If you are going to cut by hand, there's one little tool that will make it simpler. You don't necessarily need it, but if you'll line this up, it's just basically a 90-degree kind of square, and you get the top square with the board, and then what it does is you'll measure, like if you're, let's say, 17 inches here, and you've measured here, you'll make a little mark wherever you're going to cut, and then you'll put the square up to it and make sure it's flush with the board. Kind of doing it here backwards. Usually you have it on a table, and then you simply just run your pencil down the side, and now you have a nice mark that shows you where you can cut. So it's pretty, that'll help you. If you don't have one of those, don't worry about it. Like I said, they don't have to be exact. You can actually just take a board and run the bottom and make your own kind of square. If the bottom here is flush with the bottom, and it's a good factory edge. May not be, but it doesn't have to be exactly. Nobody's going to be up there eyeballing your work. You can kind of do the same thing. If you get this flush with the bottom, then you simply mark this, and you can use that as your cut. So if you don't have a lot of tools, don't let that hinder you from going ahead and doing this project. So we're going to rough them up. You don't have to. You can just paint them black, paint them smooth, leave them how you like them. But if you're going to rough them up, you can use some tools. You can use a chisel, or you can actually beat on it, make some grooves. You can just use a hammer, the back of it, the front of it, make some dents. This is a welding hammer. You can go in here, make some kind of different smaller holes with it. You can also take a drill and just drill into it. Kind of just makes a scuffed up mark. You can take a hand grinder, you can take a wood burner, anything you want to do. Here's a pro tip: only do one side of it, because that's the only side people are going to see. So if you're roughing it up, don't spend time roughing up both sides. just literally rough up the fronts and get to moving. You can also wait and do this later. I like to do it before I prime just to make sure I get paint in all the little holes. So my blade wasn't that sharp and it kind of left some rough edges. So I'm just going to kind of take a speed sander and just kind of knock down the corners. It's going to kind of give it more of a worn look too, but it's also just going to clean up all those little burrs. Here are the verticals ready for the cleats to come across. Just got to finish drying. They're all painted and wrapped together. Okay, here we are, we're back. I've got the verticals laid out and I've got the cleats going across. And so from here, all you're gonna do is attach the cleats to the vertical boards just to kind of help them be more stable. And like I said, I'm gonna use a nail gun and then I'm gonna come back on the back side and screw it. But if you don't have anything that fancy, you can literally use the old hammer and a nail, or you can just use deck screws or exterior screws and a screw gun or drill. But that's all you really need. I've clamped them down just to hold them in place. And then I came in, we wanted 9.5. So I came in, I literally just measured from the edge to 9.5. And then I came from this one and measured 9.5 just to make sure that it was level. And now I'm just gonna nail them in and then screw them on the back and we'll be ready to hang them.
So now we're just removing the old shutter off the house, and then I'm going to use that old shutter and lay it on the new shutter to use as a template to know where to put my screw holes to match up with the ones existing on the house.
So I drilled through the other side, the bottom side, with the smaller bit that actually matches what the bottom of the screw size is. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come through the top, and I'm only going to come this much, just a little bit here, so we can countersink that so you won't see the nail head. And then this is going to get all torn up, but don't worry, I'm going to wood putty it, make it look good, make it look like the rest, and then paint it. You won't even be able to tell it's there.
So now I'm just attaching the shutter to the house using the pre-existing holes that were already in the mortar. That's why I used the old shutter as a template, so those would match up when I screwed it to the house. Okay, so you can see where we drilled the holes and they left these big divots, but it's not that big a deal anyway because these were distressed anyway. So we're going to take this Durham's putty, and it's basically, we're going to mix it up like peanut butter, and then we're going to fill in these holes. And they're about like filling in drywall. You're really just going to kind of skid them kind of smooth and then put it in there, and then we're going to come back and we'll sand them, and you can really drill it and do whatever you want to. So here's the house with the old red plastic shutters. We took those down and simply replaced them with the black painted wood distressed ones. And you can kind of see the black really makes that brick and that siding pop. So pretty easy job.